Whether you're hosting or traveling this holiday season, you're likely using your house and other people's houses a little different than you do the rest of the year. More guests, more people in a room, more or more specialized cooking. And if you're about to have people over, you might be looking at your house with fresh eyes and feeling suddenly recommitted to making changes in the next year. No, now is not the time to put down the dust cloth and pick up your planning notebook. I'm not here to push you to make your life harder when it's already full. But let's make your future life easier by harnessing all of the satisfaction or frustration that comes naturally with having celebratory times in this season at home, just with your family, hosting extra guests, or even in life on the road, during this once-a-year time of madness and fun. So today's episode is for you if you have any plans to improve on your home next year. This is the cheat code to supercharge your process. Hey there, welcome back to Mid-Mod Remodel. This is the show about updating MCM homes, helping you match a mid-century home to your modern life. I'm your host, Della Hansman, architect and mid-century ranch enthusiast, and you're listening to episode 2218. Now, this episode has become a bit of a holiday fruitcake. Gifted and regifted through the season, or played and replayed every year on Thanksgiving. I think this is year number 3, but honestly, it could be 4. Here's the thing. I've got a Thursday podcast, and I always have to put something up on Thanksgiving. I feel like this episode bears repeating on an annual basis. And for anyone who's ever made it through the holidays and thought, that's it. That was the last year we live like this. We need a new kitchen. We need to add a guest room. We need to finish our basement or expand the den before we host another holiday. And then you didn't actually follow through on those design changes. This is going to help you think about how to get it done when you actually have time to start. By the way, if you are feeling just like that, supercharged to make something happen on your house in 2026, then I have been making a YouTube series especially for you. Over the last couple of weeks, separate from this podcast, I've been dropping episodes to give you a little guidance on overcoming any of the obstacles that commonly hold people back from starting. Things like feeling nowhere close to having the cost of an average kitchen remodel saved up, so you can't start. Or being totally snowed under by your Pinterest boards and spiraling into overwhelm. I've got you covered. And this Tuesday, I just dropped a video for that series on how to help you out specifically if you're worrying that any change to make to your house may shift it sideways into trendy choices and ruin the mid-century nature of it. There'll be another one next week. So pop on over to Mid-Mod Midwest at YouTube to figure out what's been holding you back and get some really targeted advice. Advice I'm putting into this video because it's what I say one-on-one to everyone that asks me these questions, and I get asked these questions or given these fears, frustrations, and what's stopping people from making changes to their homes on a near constant basis when I talk to clients, when I have consult calls, in my Instagram DMs. So this video series, I think, will be very relevant to you. Now, before we go fully into the design philosophy of how to use the holidays to improve your holistic home improvement plans, I'm going to tap into the unavoidable commercial chaos that comes right after Thanksgiving. Oh, who am I kidding? Black Friday started long ago, and we've all been getting emails in shouty caps, texts of ads and discounts and sales for the last month. But I want to encourage you to handle the sale season on your own terms. While I never discount my design services at Mid-Mod Midwest, my time and my employees' time can't be cut down and still provide good work. I do use the energy of holiday sale to make all of our other educational materials more affordable. So here is we're keeping it simple this year, Black Friday sale for us. We're chopping 25% off the cost of all of our major home improvement teaching products this year. Join Ready to Remodel Plus for 25% off. Get all the benefits of the program, all the bonus workshops, guides, lessons, and then show up for our next office hours call. It'll actually not be the first Monday of the month in December. It's going to be the second because we all need a break after the holiday. Take yourself on a super affordable self-study version of Ready to Remodel by using the Ready to Remodel Classic and just going through all the course material on your own for 25% off, or get the Master Plan in a Month program for a steal, 25% off that as well. Pop over to midmod-midwest.com/Black Friday and see everything. It'll be discounted while it's discounted now through Monday. Must I call it Cyber Monday? Through Monday, and then back to normal rates thereafter. If you are poking around inside of all of our recorded design workshops, the Mid-Century Design Kitchen Clinic, the Mid-Century Design Additions Clinic, the Mid-Century Design, Bathrooms Clinic, Owner Suite Clinic, any of those, you'll notice that they all have a secret bundle discount. If you get the Kitchen Clinic, you also get a discount on More Than a Mood Board, the Style Guide mini course, or vice versa. Check it out. So if you're looking for more material gift giving ahead of the big gift giving holidays to come, whatever they are for you, next week's episode is also going to be a bit of a mid-century gift guide. So ideas large and small for the mid-century lover in your life, even if that's just you. Find all the notes for this episode, links, references, and whatnot at midmod-midwest.com/2218. Okay, let's get into it. For our mid-mod design tip of the week, let's talk about planning for an addition. This might be top of mind for you right now if you're just absolutely pressing the walls of your house, trying to make it just a little bigger to host everyone that you need, to sit down as many people for Thanksgiving, or to sleep as many people as are going to be staying over. Here's the great news about an addition on your mid-century house. Your home was built to be easily added onto. All mid-century houses were. They were meant to be the minimum viable house, and you would just add on extra space as you needed it. But remember, bigger doesn't always mean better. What you want to do before planning an addition is run through a checklist of what are the necessary pieces of information to have. Do you need it? What are the code requirements? What are the structural existences of your house? So let's start by step 1 of designing an addition is confirming that you really need to add on. Before committing to expanding your house, I want you to think about, is there anything you can do to repurpose the other spaces in your home? Take stock of what you have already, how you are or are not using the house to its best possibility. You might well need an addition, or you might need to rearrange the square footage you have, or both. It might be that you want to add on a space and push some existing function into that space, then do something else with your existing footprint. Repurposing and improving on existing spaces in your house, like your basement, for example, can provide simple extra square footage without the need for a costly addition. And you might have other lightly enclosed spaces, like a 3-season room or a covered porch. If you can convert a breezeway into finished space, that's a simpler, less expensive project compared to a full-blown addition. So look for the space you need in unconditioned areas around your house, like a basement, crawl space perhaps, or the space between your house and garage where you don't need to build a new roof or foundation. If you do decide an addition is necessary, start with the smallest one that meets your needs. Sometimes a micro addition, just pushing out a kitchen by 2 feet, can have a big impact on your home's functionality and aesthetics. So ask yourself, how am I using the space I have? Have I explored all my other options? Basement, connected roof spaces, interior or indoor-outdoor porches? And are there parts of your home that you're currently using for just storing stuff or for activities that you don't do that often that could be repurposed for daily life, like extra storage space in basement that could become a den? Or could you clear out some of your garage and make more space for a workout space out there, then convert workout space inside the house to living space? I'm not going to talk you out of an addition. I love designing them, but I want you to make sure that an addition is what you really need before you move forward. So grab my free pre-addition checklist, which I put together with all the questions you want to ask yourself, the things you want to know about yourself and your house before you plan an addition at midmod-midwest.com/additions. All right, today's main topic is an oldie but a goodie: how to use the experience of hosting or visiting during the holidays, and even just the feeling of being alone in your home with your family during the holiday season to catalyze good choices for future remodel plans that you will make whenever everything is settled down and you have more free time. Now, I want to tell a story before I get into the traditional, the best of episode. I want to tell the story of a recent workshop meeting I just had with a lovely couple on my master plan roster. Their home is very cool. Built in the Milwaukee suburbs for a newspaperman of the mid-century era, it was designed with a dark room in the basement and plenty of space to host what must have been really killer parties for the entire newsroom on the main floor. The house has a lot of fine features, bottom line. It has an owner's suite already, a small bathroom, sure, room for both of the couple to set up their pleasant work-from-home office spaces, and lots of extra room for their adorable kiddo to run around. The house had a few built-in flaws, however, and it was remodeled in the 1990s. Well, but not to their taste. It had a number of odd, era-inappropriate finishes, replacement light fixtures that just don't work, and a bunch of mid-century charm was removed, like the brick feature wall around the fireplace was just plastered right over, and a built-in planter in the living room was removed. So with this master plan, our goal was to brush off the surfaces, restore a little mid-century original charm, and particularly to focus on the kitchen, making it more open, connecting it to the mudroom entry, and just generally creating a better space for family and friends to hang out during meal times. So why am I telling you this story today? Well, as I say, we just had our workshop meeting, which is part of the master plan process where I share our mid-century solutions package. That is the series of design suggestions that my team and I have made, showing multiple floor plan layouts matched with perspective sketch views of how those options pop up into 3 dimensions. We get into solutions for shelving, storage, seating, wall finishes, light fixtures, and more that correlate to the layouts that I'm preparing. This workshop meeting went so smoothly. In part because these clients are design-oriented, decisive people who just wanted to see some examples realized so they could gravitate to the right ones, and they knew what they liked when they saw it. But also because they had just had some of their first hosting in the new house and experienced the way that it did or did not right now accommodate the natural flow of the way they and their guests lived in the house. They had over another couple with kids, and together they ate a lovely meal in the dining room as a double family. But then after dinner, sure enough, the kids went to play in the relatively open-plan living room, and all of the adults ended up in the kitchen, hanging around while the dishes were done. Even though this kitchen, if anything, the 90s remodel made it smaller and less social host capable than its original floor plan. People just like to hang out in the kitchen. This knowledge made it so easy for them to read the 3 plan options I had shared with them and look at them both in light of their daily use case. The 2 of them like to prepare food together and separately, and they want to be able to do dishes in tandem, so they wanted 2 sinks, for example. But also, they got to think about how they will host in the house. And no matter what else needed to be sacrificed, they understood that we needed to make sure there was room for a small but comfortable space in the kitchen where their kid can do homework after school, where 2 adult guests could comfortably sit and rest while activity was swirling around the kitchen, and where they themselves could just take a load off inside the kitchen. So we were able to prioritize a slightly smaller island and a built-in eat-in area for their design. This will be where we go, and it just smoothed out the process of making decisions. Having guests over is such a perfect test run for how you might live in the house in a more social way once it is remodeled. And if your house right now isn't something that makes you particularly proud, if it's too run down or too small, or it isn't what it will be once you have remodeled, the holidays are one of the few times when you're likely to have people over anyway, because what else are you going to do? The family has to come over. Or you're going to go to other houses for other holiday events and take note of how other people's homes work to hold more than just the day-to-day occupants. This contains my best advice for capturing the feelings, ideas, solutions, and vibes of the holiday hosting and visiting in a way that you can incorporate into your next year's remodels plans. Cheers. So I told you I want you to use this holiday to plan your remodel. And by that, I do not mean that you should be pricing finished products while you try to lay out the menu for your next holiday meal. By the way, I'm recording this episode and talking to you now about the holiday season of 2022, but you can use this advice for any out-of-the-ordinary or special occasion time in your life. Hosting a family member or your own wedding. A string of family birthdays, bing, bang, boom, with a lot of guests coming over every weekend in a row. Or just having friends come and stay for a particularly long time can be the kind of occasion that lets you look at your home with a fresh perspective. But why we're talking about this now is that holidays are naturally a pinch point. They're also an annually repeating event that you can check yourself with on how long it's been since you first thought, we have to make this change in our house, and then let life get away with you. So we're going to discuss the magic that's possible when you use the holidays to plan your remodel. This is our chance to work on and create your vision for your overall remodel. In fact, the driving force behind my making this episode today is that I feel like one of the biggest mistakes that gets made planning a remodel any time of the year is to skip over or rush through a crucial phase of planning for success. Asking yourself what your home really needs, added, subtracted, or adjusted in order to suit the life you want to lead in it with your family. This is the make or break factor that determines the difference between remodels that look good but don't satisfy you and the ones that really fit your family to a T. I don't want you to end up living in a house for someone else. So skipping over the fit your house plans to your life stage, aka the dream stage, happens way too often. This is what goes wrong on most remodels, in my experience. And it always results in scope creep, so you're spending more money, or in spending more time, energy, and money on the wrong things for you. watch out. Look, I get it. This feels like a fast track. Skip over too much worrying about what you want the house to feel like so you can get right down to the important things like choosing tile. But in the long run, it will cost you. It doesn't take that much time, especially when it's guided. So use the dream phase interspersed with your regular life, like right now as you plan for the holidays, to help you plan your ideal home update well. Making sure you take time for dream is also the best possible way to fit your project to your budget. Yes, I'm going to tell you to dream big dreams, consider outrageous things, but then figure out what matters to you most. This goes back to the budget and planning episode we had just before the holidays, and that was talking about how important it is to set your whole remodeling scope, to know what matters to you most before you figure out what a reasonable budget for that scope of work might be. And it will really help you actually to plan the most efficient use of a big remodeling budget or to make the most use of a micro remodeling budget. Either way, if you've started the process by asking yourself what the home really needs in order to be your ideal home, all the answers you create along the way of the process of planning are going to be better answers than if you don't ask yourself why in the beginning. All right, so I actually want you to fit some of that why thinking right into your holiday festivities while you're experiencing them or after the fact. Keep an open mind to things that could change your house for the better in the next holiday season or through the year in between holidays. You can do this in one of two ways. Actually, I'm going to recommend you do it in both. The first one is use the fresh eyes that you get when you're preparing to host. Now, as you're preparing to host other people in your home, or even as you're just preparing to make your house for your normal family a little more festive than just its day-to-day life, you will naturally take a fresh perspective on rooms, objects, and the overall house in a way that's easier to gloss over or blur your eyes across in daily life. Now, this isn't a time when you want to berate yourself or over anything that's not exactly how you want it to be. In fact, it's a great opportunity to keep an open mind and think about what's rubbing you the wrong way as a useful item and add it to your design to-do list for the future. Your focus right now is just having a good holiday this year. But if something starts to annoy you, and this could be anything from a repetitively hard to clean surface, like a countertop that always needs repolishing every time a new guest is scheduled to come over, or the fact that it feels like there's nowhere to get away and have a little alone time when you have one extra guest in the house and they're occupying the guest room that you usually use for your morning meditation, make a note. This is actually a 2-for-1. One, you're winning future planning thinking for free without having to sit down later and rack your brains and try to consider how this could work. What are the problems you have with your house? They're not even in your face right now, so you're not thinking about them. So you're saving yourself future work. And 2, this is a redirect from holiday annoyance to problem solving. Isn't that a nice added benefit? This can actually reduce holiday stress because every time you identify an issue, you can file it away and know that it's something you want to address later. I think it really works well on both levels, and I do this myself all the time. Perhaps you're familiar with the feeling of using a little bit of anxiety of company coming over, whether for dinner or to stay overnight, as a reason to extra clean your house to a standard you haven't managed in a minute. By the way, if you don't find this relatable, then my hat's off to you. You are a better person and a better housekeeper than I am. I actually love the process of knowing I have to host someone and thinking, oh, that pile of stuff that always sits by the front door, it's been there for a month. I haven't touched it. It's just actually gathering dust. Now I'm going to make it go away, not for me, although I'll enjoy that later, but for my guest. You can use the same energy in the holidays, and I'm sure this sounds like something you might do. It'll help you also see your house in a whole new light. Just knowing that someone else is going to come in and look at your spaces will help you examine the corners, the unfinished projects, all the little things that just didn't get done in your last burst of DIY energy. You can see how they lose urgency during the course of the year, and it's not the time to go in and do those things now, although if you feel the energy to fix a small DIY project with energy from the holidays, more power to you. It's just the time to make a note. Now, I'm not going to give you a right answer as to how to capture these thoughts as you're having them, other than to say that I want you to choose a method that is easy for you. Jot them down in a notebook, start a fresh Google Doc and write them down on your phone, begin a checklist, put them in your Notes app, write them in your journal, or just say them out loud to someone else in your family in a constructive way, not a critical way, so that you both have it in your head for the next time you sit down and really start on a remodel planning process. You can also use, like I said, that oh no, people are coming over energy as a motivation to move forward on a couple of small projects and home improvement. And If that works for you, I salute you. Don't hold back. But if you don't have time to actually do any of the things that are coming up as you start to prepare for the holidays, that's okay. Just writing them down is a positive action that will help you feel better about hosting this year and make this time pay for your own future energy in the new year. All right, that's part one. Part two of using your holidays to plan your remodel is the post-game analysis, the post-host analysis, if you will. This can actually happen while you're in the middle of hosting too. After you've hosted, or even when you've got a packed house, use that same documentation process we just discussed, whatever it might be, notes app, jotted down list stuck to the fridge, what have you, to capture your thoughts about how the house is working to either hold extra holiday people or even just to hold extra holiday energy. Now, a word of warning on this. I highly do not recommend that you think about how full your house feels at the holiday and then use that as a reason to justify expanding your house physically to fit the maximum number of people who could ever visit or stay with you. This is something I see all the time happen with empty nester parents. They'll often want to build, buy, or remodel a house in order to fit maybe not even their own current adult children, but any number of future grandchildren all at the same time. I love visiting my parents and having all of us together in their house. I fully support the idea of planning for togetherness, but I urge you not to plan a giant house for the 2 to 4 weeks out of the year that you might be hosting everyone, when most of the year it will just be 2 people or a few people living and rattling around in a big empty house. That's a recipe for excess and expense. It's a way to bust your budget, burn out your energy, and it leaves you with just a whole lot of house to keep clean. Instead, my advice in this episode, and across the board, is always going to be about finding the right balance of a home you can live in all year round that still works to hold whatever number of guests you personally aspire to during the holiday season and other times of gathering through the year. Now, that number also is very dependent on you, your family, and your preferences. For some, that just mean expanding the house that's normally the right size for just 2 to hold 1 or 2 extraneous beloved relatives. For others, it might mean making room for a regular holiday party crowd on a Saturday of 70, with 10 extra staying the night. Whatever it means to you, that's the size we're planning for. So be reasonable. I'm not talking about how to make your house hold 5 times the number by adding on extra space for all of those people to stay in home comfort. I'm talking about making your house feel expandable and flexible. In general, I want you to notice challenges, not try to solve problems. I just want you to think about that later. But you might feel a burst of inspiration, which is well worth capturing now. So if you are noticing these things and coming up with great ideas, jot them down. Or if you're chatting them through with your trusted confidant visiting for the holidays, your mom, your sister, your brother-in-law who works in design, your older kids, take time to brainstorm with them in real time if that feels fun. How can we, in this moment, accommodate a crowd? And how can we later modify the house in the future to do that job even better? You might come up with some great ideas on the spot, and so might they. So ask around. I just told you to think about problems, not solutions. But here are some examples that might come to mind. One would be, how do you sit down enough people for a holiday meal in a space that's normally meant to hold just your family without a formal dining room which many mid-century houses lack? And that's not a problem. Now, this is not where I recommend that you need to build on a separate enormous dining room, but it might be where you want to think about how your furniture and your built-in elements are open to a little bit of special use flexibility. If you generally eat in the kitchen with a comfortable corner bench and a small family-sized dining table pulled up to it, what if the adjacent space is open to the next room so that you could put in more tables or add leaves to the table, grab extra chairs, and expand that same eating space to fit, instead of 4, 10, or even just 8? Could you expand out by having extra tables in adjacent spaces? Remember, the holidays only come once a year, so you don't need to plan for enough space to sit down 12 every night if you're only going to have 12 in your house 2 nights a year. However, you might want to think about busting outside the boundaries of the house. For hosting a large crowd to sit down, here in the Midwest, it's unlikely you're going to kick your guests outside fully. But could you entice them outside? Could you create a space in your yard for a wonderful bonfire that will actually draw guests voluntarily out of the house? Could a 3-season room be turned into a 3-season plus 2 days over the holiday space with the investment of proper space heating or vents that are used only a few times a year? When you're thinking about how to accommodate your overnight guests, there's a bunch of handy solutions available to a mid-century house. You can think about how to rearrange the furniture in your existing spaces to have bunk beds in your kids' room. The bedroom that's typically an office during the year could still have a day bed or a built-in sitting quietly all year round that turns into a handy space to put up an unexpected overnight guest. Or the basement. I always recommending finding space for a legal and safe bedroom in a basement, in a house that has one. That means proper means of egress through the stairs, doors, or an egress window well. This is maybe not the place where you actually want to put one member of your day-to-day household, although basement bedrooms are really fun places for teenagers and even more so for bounce back to the household young adult children to have a private space. And for elder relatives who still have good accessibility, it can be a private sort of in-law suite to put a bedroom away from the other bedrooms in the house with access to its own bathroom. But basement bedrooms can be a perfect guest space, allowing everyone to get up and go to bed on their own schedules, have a little bit of privacy before easily coming back together. I will also suggest this, not to make any judgments about your family, but you might also choose on purpose not to expand the number of sleeping places in your house during a remodel, because hosting guests in your house is not your favorite part of being a host, or is even actively something you don't like. This is what Airbnbs were made for. Have a place for everyone to come over and stay around till drinks o'clock, and then identify several good local Airbnb options where they can toddle on off to their own space at the end of the night and come back after coffee in the morning. Just a thought. All right. I want you to remember that this is a time of stress, but it's also a time of positivity and hope. So take all of your holiday energy, all of your creativity, everything that's going into thinking about the fun mid-century vintage decorations you can bring into your house, and how much fun it is to show off the work you've done, or even the plans you have for your house to your beloved relatives who are coming over. And use all of that energy to think about what your plans are for 2023. In the end, I want to make sure you also remember that taking the time to do this planning, to do this, what my home means for me, how it's good for hosting, and how it's good to be undecorated for the holidays and to be holding just the regular household members really matters, will set you up for the best possible remodel and the lowest possible budget bottom line. I would love to hear from you about how this process is working for you. If you've already had some thoughts pop in your head while you listen to this episode, then immediately, please go to Instagram, pop into my DMs at MidModMidwest, and tell me what's hitting your mind. If more ideas come to you as you're hosting through the holidays, I would love to hear about them and share them with some of my fellow clients and students. Or you can pop into the MidMod Remodel Facebook group where there's a running chat thread that's talking about what you have learned from hosting during the holidays or decorating during the holidays, reconfiguring your home to hold more people inside rather than spreading out to outside as we have to here in the Midwest and in most of the northern states' climates. I'd love to hear what hosting a holiday is helping you see in your remodel plan this year. Let's wrap up with our mid-century house feature. And for this one, this week, I want to restart the sunken living room debates. This is one that, well, I don't want to call it controversial because people don't really fight about it, but people either love or hate a sunken living room. They crave one and want me to add one to their house in a remodel, or they literally want me to fill in and remove a sunken living room from their house. We can trace this idea all the way back to 1927, when what's generally known to be the first sunken living room or conversation pit was designed by architect Bruce Goff, but it really came into its own in the mid-century era. Eero Saarinen and Alexander Girard put one into their design for the Miller House in Carmel, Indiana, which is gorgeous. I'm going to put a photo of that one into the show notes page. It's basically the entire living room is sunk into the floor. And then they also showed up in Saarinen's 1962 design for the TWA terminal at JFK. Again, a big, gorgeous, standout color carpet area that sort of draws you to hang out in that space. Now, I personally have mixed feelings about the conversation pit. I get the appeal. It's an amazing, cool idea. It's got such a vibe, panache. You can picture an extrovert throwing just a raging party in almost any sunken conversation pit. It also has a very 70s vibe, both in its inclusivity and its exclusivity. I mean, how do you make a sunken living room or a conversation pit accessible to someone who can't manage a step? It's basically impossible. Any kind of ramping takes up the whole space and ruins the vibe. It also gives a little bit of a swingers party vibe in the same way as the design for that 1970s wraparound sofa that's really overstuffed and has an ottoman in the middle that fills up the entire space, which the advertising literature of the time basically says is for your swingers party. What was that called? I'm going to look it up. Hang on. Found it. Okay, it's called the Playpen, and the ad for it literally says it's not for everyone and has a picture of the world's most uncomfortable looking grandmother sitting on it. Like, she could not judge it any harder if she tried. Go to the show notes page and look this up. Maybe I'll do an Instagram post about it. Anyway, I love the idea of a sunken living room, but what I'm much more likely to do is actually pair this concept with an addition. When you're thinking about adding on to a mid-century home, in California, in other warmer areas, if a house is built on a slab, there might be very little or zero step down between the house floor and the outside. But here in the Midwest, we're much more likely to raise a house about 12 or 18 inches above grade level so that there's a little bit of room for basement exposed windows to get some daylight. When you think about adding on, particularly in the backyard of a house like that, a house that's elevated a little above grade, you can think about, rather than excavating a whole new basement space for the added on space, you can think about giving it a little more breathing room, bringing it closer to the backyard that it's meant to be inviting you out into, and having it be a few steps down. This gives you room to put in a ramp if necessary, or to have a nice wide couple of steps that are clearly delineated. Nobody's going to trip and fall into them, which is the number one complaint about sunken living rooms, that someone in the household or a family member came over and literally fell into the living room. And you can get a little bit of benefit out of having the same roof line continue out, but getting added ceiling height by actually lowering the floor. It's a really fun design trick that we've used in a number of houses that had the right conditions for it. For today, though, I just want to ask, where are you on sunken living rooms? Do you have one you've been dreaming up a plan to get rid of, like we have many master plan clients asked for in the past? Or do you wish you could add a little more pizzazz to your house with a sunken conversation pit in your remodel? Or did the idea of just putting on an addition in the backyard that steps down a couple of steps to be closer to the backyard really make you feel excited? One way or another, the sunken living room is probably not going to be built into a lot of houses going forward unless the owners specifically want one. So it is a true time capsule feature, and we can love it for what it is. I'll put some great envy-inspiring pictures of sunken living rooms into the show notes page, and also I will link to that ad for the Playpen sofa. It's really something. This has been episode 2218. Check out the show notes page for the tip, guide to addition thinking, links to discounted mid-mod remodel educational products. Now is the perfect time to join Ready to Remodel, show up for our next office hours call on December 8th, to give everyone a breather after the holiday weekend, and then really kick off your home improvement plans in 2026. But one way or another, no matter how determined you are to get started full speed ahead, I hope your holiday weekend goes just as you'd hoped. And stay tuned for next week's Mid-Century Gift Guide episode. I'm sure it'll be relevant for someone in your life, even if that someone is just you. Happy holidays. This episode was written and recorded by me, Della Hansman, and produced by Rebecca Rossi. If you'd like to support the show and mid-century homes in general, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode. You can help other people find us when you leave a rating and review, or recommend us directly to a friend with a mid-century house. Find more of Mid-Mod Remodel on Instagram, YouTube, or pop right over to our website to check out our services. I would love to design a master plan for your home, or teach you how to create one for yourself in my Ready to Remodel program. Thanks so much for listening to Mid-Mod Remodel. I love that you love your mid-century house. I love it too.